Okay, welcome back everybody for the 10th installment of the Torah from the Academy of Shem and Aver. Alright, when we last left our superheroes, we were discussing really essentially two points. Now just a quick review. We've been going over for a while the 7 different academies of Shem and Aver in the world. And last week we focused on the wells that were dug by Abraham and Isaac. A lot of people had questions of the wells, so we discussed that. But we left off last week after discussing what it is to be a priest to God above, that there was a concept of the partnership of the Noahide and the Jewish people through something that I call spiritual technology, the ancient Torah. And we talked about the world really being a mechanism of Torah. And for example, one depiction of this that Jacob learned from Shem was the idea of the rods in affecting the offspring of the animals in the house of Lavan. That Jacob understood from Shem, as Jacob served Shem for 50 years, that the world, the physical world, really is spiritually oriented. It says in the creation of Sabbath that the word is vayinafash, and Hashem was vayinafash, and literally the word nefesh means soul. And the way with the sources learn it, God sold the world, S-O-U-L-E-D. He sold the world. That the world became a living organism of spirituality. And that Shem's Torah essentially is malleable. That you can interact with God through creation. This is the concept of the commandments. And the dwelling in the world that we live in it. When we do spiritual things, we can use physicality and connect to the spirituality in it. Again, Jacob had the rods in the water with the animals, and he affected the outcome spiritually, physically. So that was the idea of the Torah of Shem. That Shem's Torah was a knowledge of creation. That Shem essentially could affect creation through intentions spiritually. We call this like the worldly Torah, or we can call it the spiritual technology within Torah. And that's where we left off last week. So now we're gonna go back to this theme, ongoing. But before we just fly out the floodgates, let's understand a little bit of background and then come to really understand this spiritual technology. Because what I call spiritual technology is what we're gonna change that title to the ancient Torah. The Torah that's ancient, that has kind of an ancient feel to it. Now, the reason I use the word ancient is the highest level in Torah literature is something called atik. It's the level of the crown, of emanation of crown, that where you can fathom spirituality even in physicality. Now the word atik literally means more in Hebrew. It means that in physicality there's a little bit more to it. And that more that you cannot perceive, that's the spirituality. Yet the word atik doubles as the word ancient in Hebrew. For example, right now we're broadcasting out of Tzfat, the holy city of Tzfat in Israel. And I happen to live in what's called the old city of Tzfat. So do you know what they call the old city in Hebrew? Ir Atika. The city, Ir Atika. The ancient city. And we're saying the word Atik, ancient. That's the level that physicality is actually spirituality. It's that bit of that missing piece. We see the world as physical, but really there's a whole soul level. Remember that word vayinafash? There's that soul element to physicality. And that God made the world physical first in creation, and then the soul came into creation at the end of creation. Shem's Torah is to connect to that level of spirituality and physicality. It's that underlying presence of ancientness to the Torah. That it's alive. It's not archaic. Archaic means it's outdated. It's ancient. That there's a real mystical element to the Torah. And that's the aspect of Shem. And again, when we go into the world, it's through the prism of Shem that we can understand and relate to the world, not as archaic, but as ancient, Atika, that there's a little bit more to it. For example, as we're going to bring down a major theme from now on, the relationship between Noahide and Jew. You could just call it on a surface level, without any spirituality, a nice friendship. Just a bunch of nice people getting along, claiming to do God's will. But when we bring in the Torah of Shem, and we understand the concept of friendship, and the concept of working together, the concept of bridged nations corresponding with one another, we can start to see a more metaphysical reality under the surface. You can look at it however you want, or whatever level of shallowness you want, but underneath the context of physical reality, there's a spiritual truth going on. There's a whole spiritual reunion going on. And it's the Torah of Shem that allows us to speak about and visualize that the spiritual nature working in the vessels of physicality. This is the level of really a soul level to everything. And the relationship of Noahide and Jew is a soul relationship. It is souled. Souled. It's a soul connection. And we're going to start today to understand really the essence of that soul connection. And how it's not to be perceived grossly as physicality. And it's not just spirituality either. It's not just a nice idea that in some spiritual distant universe it exists. They both exist together. Our job is to connect to that spirituality with intention, strengthen it, bring it out more, make it known, and really unite under the context of what we're calling the spiritual technology or the ancient Torah. The Torah, as it is today, doesn't look very ancient. It looks very archaic. And our job is to make it ancient, that level of spiritual potential is in it. Now let's start to understand more how this works. This is a little bit vague right now, I'm aware of that. But hopefully at the end of today, we're going to see a little bit, in the next coming weeks, how this works practically. So what really got me on this train of thought today, as I researched, something very, very strong struck me that I found. Remember what we said a couple of weeks ago, or about 8 or 9 weeks ago, that Shem, after he had offered the Torah for 400 years, he went to Mount Sinai for 1,300 years where he waited. And he came into contact with King Solomon. Why King Solomon? And why did he go to Mount Sinai? And just because Shem ate from the tree of life, is that real? The answer to these questions are, yes, it is real. And there was a reason why Solomon. And the missing information to the timeline is as such. Shem existed in 2,000 years of chaos. And chaos in Hebrew is the word tohu. And chaos doesn't mean chaos. It means raw, very powerful Torah. Basically light without vessels. That was Shem's world. For the time of the sin of Adam, all the way through the generations, Enoch or in Hebrew, Chanoch, through Noah. Noah gives way to Shem. And Shem was after the flood, exists just after or around the year 2000. And there's an ancient view of the world that Shem saw in the ark. That there was going to be 2,000 years of tohu, chaos, followed by 2,000 years of Torah. And then there's going to be 2,000 years of Mashiach or Messiah. Now Shem's living in a very, very interesting time. Here he is at the end of 2,000 years. And Shem basically understands there's going to be a transition to 2,000 years of Torah. So perforce, there's going to be a change in the world. Again, don't view the world as just a timeline that continues and we live this little reality. Imagine that the world will change after 2,000 years. That's the level of that ancient Torah. That Shem lived by this. He said there's going to be a change. The world's going to produce Torah. And Shem knew exactly what he was looking for. He was looking for Abraham. There's a reason why Abraham. The first question we have to ask ourselves is, why not Noah? So if the Torah is going to be taught, is it going to be through Noah, Shem, or Abraham? Right around the turn of the 2,000 years of raw power to power in vessels. Now the archaic Torah, the archaic perspective will tell you Noah was righteous in his generation, but in Abraham's generation, there's no comparison. That's archaic. We don't want archaic. We want ancient. Meaning, what really was Shem, Noah, and Abraham about? Now, the first thing we have to understand is that Noah was, this is a little bit hard to understand, but he was a true partner to Shem. Okay, they were father and son. But Shem and Noah, their souls were intertwined. So was it really proper to talk about either one? Could Noah focus on Shem? Well, no, because Noah's part of Shem. Could Shem focus on Noah? Well, no, because Shem is part of Noah. But if Shem, who lives beyond Noah because of the time difference, Noah's going to die sooner. He's older than Shem. That leaves Shem as the lone man left standing. And now the world's going to produce an Abraham. And now the Torah can be taught about Abraham. The question is why? Why are we going back to Abraham? So the answer is like this. A very simple answer. I don't know how many people in here watch football, so I'll refrain from my football analogy. Because football analogy works very good here. Noah was on the level of, let's say, pshat. Simple meaning. He did what you're supposed to do. And there's not a lot of fanfare that comes with that. Now that's not to the demise of Noah himself. That's just the nature of reality. When you do what you're supposed to do, people say, he did what he was supposed to do. It's not very romanticized. For anybody that watches football, I'll give a football analogy. If you do your job every week, workmanlike production, everyone says, yeah, just another perfect game from Bob. But if you have another guy who isn't so workmanlike, but he's interesting. He's more personable. People relate to him more. Maybe he built himself up from nothing. Maybe he has a more flair for the dramatics. This is really the difference between Noah and Abraham. And Shem, as he is at the turn of the 2,000 years, and he's saying the world's going to produce an Abraham. It's going to produce this, whatever this new creation of Torah is. Remember, Noah comes from Tohu, from chaos. He's very powerful. He kept the entire Torah. But that's the problem. His Torah was just one big burst. I kept the Torah. Okay, no one's arguing with Noah. He kept the whole Torah. But it's not in vessels, or it's just raw power. And Shem is basically in the same boat as Noah because the two, their souls are intertwined. So whatever you say about Noah goes for Shem, and Shem goes to Noah, but Shem lived longer than Noah because Noah was older and had to die first. So that leaves us with Shem. The world produces Abraham. Shem looks back. He neglected his own seed. He had 5 sons. But they didn't quite have what he's looking for. Shem's keen. He's saying to himself, don't judge physicality by physicality. Yeah, I can say my sons are righteous. Okay, so what? We're looking for a spiritual truth in the physical world. We're looking for that ancient. We're looking for that level of divinity revealed in creation. Show me Abraham. He's saying to Hashem, show me Abraham. There has to be. I don't know what an Abraham is. Don't know when, where, what, how, or why. But the turn of the 2,000 years of raw Torah to a 2,000 years of a manicured Torah. Shem's Torah is so high, it's without vessels. It's the level of infinity. The Torah must be brought down to earth in vessels that we can work with. Again, the ancient Torah. Vessels in this world. Something that's containable. And all of a sudden, here comes this Abraham character. And he was born in the land of Ham. Yet something very interesting happens. Abraham's called Abraham, the Hebrew. Avraham, Ivri. And what's Ivri? From Aver. And who's Aver? From Shem. And we laid down a principle that the seed of Ham desires the seed of Shem. So here's a guy, he's born into Ham, the land of Kasdim, where Abraham was in the furnace. So why is Abraham so driven to get to Israel? In the Parsha, Lech Lecha. And who's in Israel? Shem. As Malki Tzedek. So here's Malki Tzedek in Israel. He's a priest to God above. And he's saying, just wait. Just wait. There's going to be a guy who's going to come to Israel. Has to be. So in the academies of Shem and Aver are the other son of Noah, Japhet, or Hebrew Yaphis. So Shem and Aver have their academies in Israel, teaching Japhet. And from Japhet, no one's appearing. And Ham's in the whole rest of the world. Yet we know that the seed of Ham desires to merge with Shem. And Shem is the father of the Semites, Shem. And he sees that he's not producing anybody. Now there are Semites over the world from Shem. But in the land, no one's here. Comes Abraham, and he starts passing 10 tests. Starts passing 10 tests. And in the middle of those tests, he's going to meet up with Malki Tzedek on the Temple Mount. And this is where two things were revealed to Abraham. This is just after the turn of the 2,000 years of raw power to 2,000 years of Torah. On the Temple Mount, the laws of the priesthood were revealed to Abraham, and the Torah was revealed to Abraham. And who gave those tools to Abraham? Shem. But yet there's a problem. Shem is on the level of pure wisdom. Wisdom by nature has no vessels. How do you contain wisdom? If you've ever experienced a flash of brilliance, try telling it over to somebody. You have to write it down. You have to articulate. You have to speak it. You can't just have like a mind meld and tell someone, psychically perceive what I think. Shem's Torah is without boundary. The level of wisdom. But what does Shem do at the Temple Mount? He brings out bread and wine. The bread and wine are symbolic of the laws of the priesthood, the wine, and the bread to the Torah. There's an axiom in Torah that says, without flour there's no Torah, without Torah there's no flour. Shem perceives, this is the guy. This is the guy. And there's a law in the physics of Torah that wisdom, the proper vessel to contain wisdom, is through kind deeds. Acts of kindness are a natural garment to wisdom. That's the ancient Torah. That's the spiritual technology. If I want to convey to you wisdom, do I just say some really high stuff? I can talk some really high stuff to you. The Yesod of Abba dwells in the Malchus, and the Malchus is revealed in the Yesod of Abba. Do you know what I'm just saying? No. That's wisdom without vessels. So I just said, I'm going to say a bunch of Hebrew terminology that needs to be explained. But when we bring the Torah of wisdom down to earth, through acts of kindness, there's no clearer and better vessel to contain wisdom than acts of kindness. So you can speak the wisdom of Shem's world above, which is a sort of code. Like what I just said in Hebrew, it's all code. But if you really want to convey the message, the natural garment is through acts of kindness. So Shem brings down his Torah, his wisdom, into the vessel called Abraham. And what it does, it brings the Torah to earth. Abraham's going to pass 10 tests. And after the final test of the binding of Isaac, the Akedah, Abraham reaches his potential of being a priest to God above. He brings that level of God, Kale, as we said. Remember? Shem is a priest to God, the verb above. And Jacob was in the image of Kale Tachton, God below, to pray, to nullify decrees, to ask for God's intervention in the world. Shem says to Abraham, you, Abraham, are also a priest to God above. But Shem saw that Abraham was down below. And after the fulfillment of the Akedah, the binding of Isaac, Abraham reached Shem's level. And what do we find happened just after the binding of Isaac? Something really strange happened. Abraham sent Isaac, you would think, to learn from Abraham. Here's Abraham the father. He reached the level of Shem. Forget Shem. We no longer need Shem. We have Abraham. Bye, Shem. Now there's an Isaac. And Isaac can just learn from Abraham. But that's not what happened. What happened is, Abraham reaches that level of Shem. Immediately the Torah says, Abraham sent Isaac to learn from Shem. All of a sudden we don't say goodbye to Shem. Quite the contrary. What we find is that Shem taught Isaac the Torah of Abraham. Abraham's more of a romantic version of Shem and Noah. Shem and Noah were perfectly righteous. Even more so Shem. Shem was a righteous man, the son of a righteous man. What do we say about Noah? Perfectly righteous before God. That's not very romantic. It's like saying, hey, what should I do? Don't do anything wrong. That's the whole Torah. That's not very much to aspire to. Be perfect. Don't mess up. That's the level of the Torah of Noah and Shem. They were righteous purely before God. Their merit is actually their lack. It's so high, how do you learn from it? Just be like Noah. Just be like Shem. Abraham comes along. Abraham works at being righteous. He works at finding the Torah. And Shem understood that is the Torah that I want to teach. That's the Torah from the earth. The world produced that Torah. Now, Abraham is a garment to Shem. Remember, kindness is the garment that garments wisdom. There's a wisdom in Abraham. But Abraham's on the level of kind deeds, chesed. So when Shem meets up with Abraham at the Temple Mount, he brings out the bread and wine. You represent the Torah within the kind deeds, the wine. Thereby Shem taught Isaac the Torah of Abraham. We learn a very, very, very important lesson from that episode. In Torah, there are two schools of thought. Always. The Jew must learn from the Jew, the Jewish Torah. Yet, that's not complete. The sage in the Talmud, Rabbi Akiva, he learned only Jewish thought. And they thought of him as an aspect of the redemption. But they failed. The redemption didn't come, and that was the beginning of the last 2,000 years, the 2,000 years of Messiah. After the fulfillment of 2,000 years of Torah. It should have happened. But what went wrong? Now, Rabbi Akiva, mind you, he was a convert. He had that Noahide roots in him. But he strengthened the Jewish element, and there was no balance. The Jewish world at that time was highly, highly Jewish. But we see that Jewish reality didn't bring the redemption. And the Noahide world was still in formation, going through its course of history. And today, we seem to be very, very Jewish, but we're not. Because that level of the real Torah is missing. It's missing something. And look who's around today. All of a sudden, the Noahide nations are out there. More than we can imagine. That's the two schools of thought. That's the partnership that was brought down. Abraham reached the pinnacle of Judaism. You weren't going to get any more Jewish than Abraham. So Abraham should have made a cult and taught Isaac, and that's the end of it. But what he did was Abraham sent Isaac to learn from Shem. It created the other perspective, the balance. Isaac had the full education. He learned from Abraham, and he learned from Shem. And Shem was able to give over through the kind deeds of the yeshiva. The yeshiva is built, the academy is built on kindness. That's how Shem learned the whole Torah. Noah, his father, removed the yoke of the world so that Shem could work hard in Torah to perceive. That was their partnership. Noah removes the burdens of the world so the wisdom could come to Shem. Shem takes care of Isaac so that the wisdom can come down. And Abraham is the vessel. He's a romantic vessel that Shem can tell the Torah through Abraham. How can Shem can't teach the Torah from himself? What's he going to say? Just be like me. That's the whole Torah. Bye, Isaac. Just be like me. And Isaac says, okay. Or he can say, hey, Isaac, just be like Noah, my father. Okay. Ironically, that's what people say today. They say, you know what? Just believe. Just have faith. Just go here. Just do that. And you're fixed. That's the irony. We've gone back to what Shem was preventing. So when the Torah comes through Shem or the Bnei Noach, the Noahide, all of a sudden that just easy fix-it button goes away. Because that's what Shem represented. Hard work. And the relationship was built between Isaac and Shem, based on the relationship of Abraham and Shem. Abraham walked the walk and passed 10 tests. And Shem saw the way of Abraham was a perfectly fit vessel to give over the wisdom in the kind deeds aspect of Abraham. It was a perfect connection. Isaac learns from Abraham, but more importantly, he learns from Shem. Then the book I saw on this continues. Jacob learned from Isaac. Isaac taught Jacob the way of Abraham. But then Jacob served Shem for 50 years, getting the full perspective. It didn't stop there. Joseph learned the Torah of Shem from Jacob. As it says in the verse, Jacob loved Joseph. Gave him the jacket with the colors to show that Joseph had learned the ways of Shem. But there's a problem. There's another problem. Joseph learned so high the Torah of Shem. And he brought to Egypt the Torah of Shem. That Joseph was called a righteous man. Joseph HaTzadik. He actually went to that level of Shem. To the point that Joseph was kind of on the level of a priest. As seen from his episode with the wife of Potiphar. The level of separation from immorality was a priestly thing. Joseph tried to instill in Egypt, when the Jews came over, the Torah of Shem. He gave them 5 changes of clothes and 300 shekels of silver. He implemented the Torah of Shem into the nation that was created by Shem. Or that Shem anticipated that nation. Thereby, while Joseph was in Egypt, something even greater happened. Remember, the seed of Ham desires the seed of Shem. Judah, the brother, married an offspring of Ham, a Canaanite. All of a sudden, we find that Judah is chasing after Tamar, the daughter of Shem. And Judah has 2 sons, twins, with Tamar. Zerach and Peretz. And they say something very, very interesting. That the Messiah comes from the offspring of the sons of Judah. And Jacob's blessings to Judah are very, very peculiar. Judah, you, your brothers will acknowledge. Why not Joseph? Joseph was the one that mastered the Torah of Shem. We should acknowledge Joseph. But remember the intention of Shem. Bring the Torah down. Remember the spiritual technology, the ancient Torah. We should interact with Torah. It's not just for the intellect. It's of this world. Shem already existed as a priest of God above. The usage of names of God above. That's not for this world. Because Shem saw really the creation itself was a perfect conduit to interact with God. It's one thing to interact with God up above. But the world was sold. The world is a sold endeavor. The 2,000 years of chaos, 2,000 years of Torah, 2,000 years of Messiah are on earth. The Holy Temple, when it is built, is on earth. So Judah, thereby, your brothers will acknowledge that Judah, in his connection with Tamar, he became a sublime student of Shem. And the tribe of Judah took upon themselves something that nobody else did. Joseph took on the teachings of Shem. But that's it. Nobody else followed the path. The Levites, they took on the mitzvah, the commandment of circumcision, and they were loyal priests in Egypt, followers of Shem. But that was the level of priesthood. Shem is Malki Tzedek, a priest of God above, a king of righteousness. And what does the Torah say? If you had to pick one over the other, which is more specific to Shem? His kingship or his priesthood? The Torah chooses kingship. Because his name is Malki Tzedek, the king of righteousness. He's not called the Kohen Tzedek, the priest of righteousness. Yet we do find, in the four craftsmen perspective of the redemption, Shem is called the priest of righteousness, the Kohen Tzedek. So Shem really is called both. He's a priest of righteousness and a king of righteousness. But the Torah calls him a king of righteousness. Judah takes it upon himself, the kingship, by dwelling in the Torah of Shem. And the book I saw today says all the forefathers learned from Shem. They learned the Torah of Abraham from the Torah of Shem. It was Shem's Torah. Shem taught over his wisdom in the garment of the kindness of Abraham. And that was a means to get the Torah of Shem down. The world produced that Abraham character, figure. And Shem recognized it. He was sitting on it for a long time. When Abraham passed the test of the binding of Isaac, Shem said, "There's our guy. Now I can teach my Torah." Shem teaches the Torah. And it's picked up the most by Judah. To the point that Judah becomes a king over it. Judah, your brothers will acknowledge. And they guard the tradition much like the way the Levites guard the tabernacle and the God's presence, the Shekhinah. Judah guards this and lives it and passes it on. The tradition of Shem. All the way from all the generations. To the point Shem's gone. Shem disappeared. Where's Shem? Forgotten in history. Everybody forgot Shem. Eventually the priests, they forgot Shem. Joseph eventually forgot Shem. The Torah becomes archaic. instead of ancient. But the technology of the Torah exists, guarded by the tribe of Judah. And eventually the tribe of Judah is going to produce a David. Now we're talking. Anybody that's familiar with verse 100, or the Psalm 110. And you are a priest forever by my, how's it say? You are a priest, atah kohen le'olam, al dibarti Melchizedek. You are a priest forever by my word Melchizedek. The commentators on this psalm are in question. Is it written about Abraham or David? And the answer is, who cares? Because both are accurate. Shem gave it over to Abraham. Abraham became a priest forever, so it fits. Yet, from Abraham, Shem teaching the Torah of Abraham, it manifested all the way. What is that? What is that? What is that? That's the technology. Shem saw, by teaching the Torah of Abraham from the Torah of Shem, the people of the world are an ancient technology. Abraham will teach Isaac. Isaac will go to Shem. Shem will teach the Torah of Abraham. Jacob then will learn the Torah of Shem. Jacob will teach Joseph. Joseph will teach to go to Egypt. Egypt will have the Torah of Shem. Judah will be alone. Judah then will take up the kingship from Jacob's Torah of Shem. Judah will take on the kingship and guard that kingship and teach it and dwell in the Torah of Shem until it produces a David. That's the ancient technology Shem saw. What is the reality of 2,000 years of Torah? 2,000 years of Torah means there will be 2,000 years of Torah. And look what happened. Now you have the whole Torah was written based on that unfolding. The nation was written. The Torah was now able to be written and put down. That's what those 2,000 years were meant to do. But somebody had to initiate. And Shem saw he was the guy. He could have taught about himself. But what does Yisro tell Moses? Don't do it all yourself. You'll become overburdened. Shem could have done it all by himself, but then why? Why would Shem do it all by himself? Moses couldn't enter the land, because he would do it all by himself if he got into the land. Shem was brought back to the land when? Go back to David. So now the tribe of Judah is alive. There's something alive. There's something spiritual and lively in his midst. The seed of Judah is actually alive. Imagine that. What did Ham investigate in the ark? He saw that seed and blood was actually alive. And that the seed of Ham desired the seed of Shem. That's a spiritual technology. Inside creation, the sons of Noah, there's a reality. Ham, you will come to Shem. He tried to fight that reality, castrated Noah. And in that merit, Shem got the merit of tzitzit, the fringes of the Jewish person. That will also trigger the spiritual technology in the future, which we'll get into. The bloodlines, the family, the seed, all of it becomes spiritual technology. The ancient Torah. Shem lives on. There's a David. And the Psalm 110 says, David, you are a Cohen, a priest forever, by my word, Melchizedek. David merits tremendous levels. The ultimate Messiah of those 2,000 years, the Messiah called the Mashiach ben David, the Messiah, son of David. As David was the essence of what we got to in the blessings of Judah from Jacob. Judah, you, your brothers, will acknowledge. A scepter shall not be removed from between your legs. Ad ki yavo Shiloh, until comes this character called Shiloh. Shiloh is the gematria numerical value of Moses, 345. The commentators state that at that time, it's until David. Judah merited this until David. Shem's Torah produced a David. Therefore, it produced a messianic age. Now that we understand that, who was the first Ben David? Who was the first son of David? Just like who was the first Noahide? Shem ben Noach. Shem, the son of Noah. Which we ignore Shem. Why? The essence of Noahide is in Shem. He was the son of Noah. So who was the son of David? Solomon. Now remember, Shem disappeared a long time ago. Solomon all of a sudden is urged to go to Mount Sinai. And he finds Shem, who was there for 1,300 years. All of a sudden the timeline is restored. And Solomon says, Shem, is that you? Shem says, yeah, hey, listen, what happened in the year 2448? He says, the Torah was given. Shem says, what's the Torah? Now imagine Solomon, the fulfillment of Judah, through the forefathers, from Shem himself. The tradition is there's going to be a time that you're going to be in front of Shem, Shem HaGadol, the great Shem, as it says. Shem Oavi, Shem who loved God. And you better not mess up. Imagine being in the presence of Shem, and you're being asked, what's the Torah? And Solomon has to think, how do I tell Shem what the Torah is? Solomon composes on the spot 3 books. Mishlei, Proverbs, Koheles, Ecclesiastes, Song of Songs, Shir Shirim. And it said in the Midrash, at that point, Solomon released Shem from his quasi-state of having eaten from the tree of life. Shem receives the Torah. On that level, Solomon becomes Messiah ben David. The speaking of the son of David. That David, the encapsulation of the Torah of Shem, and Solomon gives over to Shem the Torah of David, the fulfillment of Shem. Releases Shem. Shem now saw, yes, the Torah was on earth. Mission accomplished. He goes back to his abode in the academy of Gan Eden. And Shem himself is now given over the wisdom of Solomon. Shem now has that essential Torah. So when there's going to be 4 craftsmen, and Messiah, son of David, Messiah, son of Joseph, Elijah, and the righteous priest, we can understand Shem's place in the end of days. That the Torah of Messiah goes back a timeline extending all the way to Shem. The Talmud says, I will raise another David. That the days of the 2,000 years of Messiah, just like the 2,000 years of Torah, there was an Abraham. It's prophesied that David, through whether it be incarnation or whatever, there will be produced a David. The laws of the Rambam suggest if there arises amongst you a man like David his father, and he does X, Y, and Z and fulfills, then you can say this is the Mashiach. And we have the Torah of Mashiach from Shem and Solomon's union. The essential Torah was passed down, and Solomon inaugurated those levels. Shem is now free, as the Torah was brought down. That was the original intention. Ultimately then, Solomon, he himself fails in the idea of being the Mashiach. He didn't have the hard work that Shem had. Solomon was given wisdom from God. He was given the Torah from Shem. He was given the Torah from David his father. He wrote the 3 books, but he didn't labor to understand the 3 books. He just had the 3 books. He got it. He didn't really process and compute. His temple was destroyed because of it. From then it was a decline to the destruction of the first temple. But something happened. Something happened at the end of the first temple's destruction. Ezra finishes off the Torah to the vessels of the Torah. He brought the script. Remember, we go back to the learning Ashurit. The script from Nineveh. The academies outside the land of from Shem and Aver. The Torah then can be written. The oral Torah becomes written. The holiday of Hanukkah is manifest in the Second Temple. The Torah is translated to Greek. The first opportunity to give the Torah to Bnei Noach missed. That was their time. But out of that consequence came the Torah on the level of the Midrash Agadata. The Torah in vessels from that level of chaos or tohu. And who was there on the spot? And by the end of the Second Temple, Rabbi Akiva. The last 2,000 years. And again, as we said, the only thing missing at that time was the Noahide influence. As time went on for 2,000 years of Messiah, they wrote down the Torah. The Midrash was written. Eventually there's going to be a Rashi and a Rambam. The laws of the Noahide are going to... Everything of the Torah of Shem was coming to focus. Every generation writing a little bit more and a little bit more. Until ultimately today, when the Jewish people seem very Jewish, but they're not. The Torah of Shem, where is it? The funny thing is it's everywhere. If you know what you're looking for, the Torah of Shem is everywhere. And if you open your eyes, all of a sudden there are Noahides ready everywhere. And when the Torah goes through the Noahide, then you fulfilled what Isaac did with Abraham and Shem. When the Torah goes through Bnei Noach, then both camps win. And there's a partnership. When the Jew recognizes that Melchizedek, Shem, was a character in the Torah that represented that ancient wisdom, what he does, he finds the Noahide world through Shem. Now, when the Noahide wants to connect with the Jewish people, you can't just say, hey, hop on over to Abraham. Listen. The bridge isn't established. But when Shem Melchizedek is there, and we know that Shem found Abraham to teach Shem's Torah, the bridge is established. Shem is that metaphysical gateway in a sense. He allows the Jewish people to really get acquainted with what Shem was doing, that ancient Torah, the spirituality in the Torah. And the Noahide through Shem then has a conduit to get into Abraham like Shem did. The Torah then is strengthened on both sides. The partnership is established, friendship is established, and there's a union. But the union's not just physical. There's a spiritual union. The two then become to help each other. The Jew wants to figure it out. What happens is he figures it out, but he needs that technology. He needs help. The Noahide feels the ancient. But he needs to figure it out to get into that ancient. And the Jew needs the ancient to figure it out. So when the 613 commandments are employed, the Noahide then has the vessels to figure out how to get in touch with that ancient Torah of Shem. The Jewish people then receive that ancient wisdom, which allows them to figure it out more. And the partnership is established. And then all the imagery of the ancient technology, if you will, partnership. You become a spiritual being. It's a spiritual relationship. The Torah becomes spiritual, with purpose and direction. And the Torah is at its root, is given over from two places. Just like Shem and Abraham had figured out. Isaac learned from Abraham, but more importantly, Isaac learned from Shem. And that Torah that Shem taught over, the Torah of Abraham, the wisdom of Shem in the kind deeds, spans all of time, forward and backwards. And from then we have the 2,000 years of Shem, Tohu, chaos, Torah without vessels. Then we had the 2,000 years of the vessels, and 2,000 years of Messiah, of writing down the Torah, until today, when one looks very weak, the other one's actually very strong. And it started with Rabbi Akiva in the Jewish timeline. He was not even Jewish from his birth, with his parents, but he became very Jewish. And today the Jews seem very Jewish, but that's actually a very weak establishment. When the Torah goes through Bnei Noach, as Abraham sent Isaac, particularly at that moment, to learn from Shem, then Isaac got everything. And then it was given over to Jacob, to Joseph, to Judah. Pure Torah, ancient Torah, spiritual, physical together, handed over until there was a David. Handed it over to Solomon, and that's what released Shem from this world. The Torah was established. So we can see from the template of the forefathers, the timeline of the Torah through Shem, and through his union with Abraham, in the union on the Temple Mount of Melchizedek and Abraham. The Torah wisdom of Shem came down in the vessels of kind deeds. And that template lives on. It's the fractal that makes the Torah work. And that's what we're going to focus on next week, more in detail, that principle. Thank you.